She said it the first time half laughing, half daring me. "You're good with your hands, aren't you?" And for some reason, I couldn't look away long enough to pretend it was just a joke. Her name's Elise, my best friend's older sister. Mid-40s, calm in that way people get after they've seen too much and stop trying to impress anyone. The kind of woman who fills a room without needing to speak. She just exists differently. That afternoon, she was in the kitchen, barefoot, a loose shirt hanging just enough to remind me I should probably keep my eyes up. She'd called me over to help fix the cabinet door that wouldn't close. Simple enough. Except nothing about her ever felt simple. I remember kneeling on the floor, screwdriver in hand, the faint citrus scent of her perfume cutting through the smell of old wood and coffee gone cold. She leaned on the counter behind me, too close, the quiet between us stretched tight. "You don't have to do that," I said, voice lower than I meant. She smiled, soft, like she knew more than she'd ever say. "You said you're good with your hands. I'm just testing the theory." The screw slipped. My pulse did too. When I looked up, she was watching me. Not in that casual, polite way people look at someone younger, but like she was remembering something she wasn't supposed to. Her fingers traced the rim of her mug, slow, distracted. "Careful," she murmured, eyes on the screw, not me. "You'll strip it if you twist too hard." "I know," I said. Guess I'm still figuring out how much pressure things need. That made her glance up. A quiet breath, a flicker of something unreadable. Amusement? Regret? Passed too quickly to name. She turned away then, running her hand along the counter, wiping dust that wasn't there. "Your generation, you rush everything," she said. "You don't let things settle." I almost laughed, but something in her tone stopped me. "Maybe you just haven't given us a reason to slow down." Her shoulders tensed. Just for a second. The air changed thicker, warmer. The sound of the fridge hummed suddenly too loud. I could feel her watching me again even though she wasn't looking. I tightened the last screw, stood up, and found her a step closer than before. Close enough that the hem of her sleeve brushed my arm. Close enough that if either of us moved an inch, we'd have to decide what we meant. "Fixed," I said. "Show off," she said back, barely above a whisper. Her eyes dropped to my hands, then back to my face. A pause. Too long to be nothing. "I should probably," I started. She nodded but didn't move. "Right? Of course." Neither of us did. Then the front door opened. Her sister's voice echoed from the hallway, breaking the spell. Elise stepped back, quick, tucking her hair behind her ear like she'd been caught doing something wrong. I turned away, pretending to pack my tools, pretending I wasn't burning inside my skin. She spoke softly behind me, voice steady but not quite even. "Don't tell her you fixed it," she said. I glanced over my shoulder. "Why not?" Elisa's smile didn't reach her eyes this time. "Because then I won't have a reason to ask you back." The hallway light flicked on. Footsteps. Her expression changed. A practiced calm, a mask sliding into place. But as her sister called my name, Elisa's hand brushed mine once. Fast, like an accident. It wasn't. And that single touch, that single second, felt like the start of a mistake I already knew I'd make again. It was 2 weeks before I saw her again. Her sister had mentioned, offhand, that the kitchen light had started flickering. I didn't volunteer right away, but the thought of her, bare feet on the tile, that quiet voice saying "you're good with your hands," kept circling in my head like a song I couldn't shake. So I showed up with a toolbox and some excuse about just passing by. Elise answered the door in a gray sweater that hung loose at the shoulders. She looked surprised, then something softer flickered across her face, like relief she didn't want to show. "Oh, you," she said, and then smiled. Of course the light picked today. Inside, everything smelled faintly of rain and soap. There was a mug on the counter again, half drunk, lipstick fading at the rim. She always left things unfinished. Maybe people too. "Where's your sister?" I asked. "Out. Yoga class," she said. "You're safe." The joke landed crooked between us, half playful, half warning. I climbed the small step stool and started working on the fixture. She stood close enough behind me that I could feel her presence without turning. The scent of her hair, clean, like cedar and something floral, rose up when she leaned in to hand me a bulb. "You don't have to hover," I said. "I like watching," she replied, then quickly added, I like to learn, in case it breaks again." Her voice faltered at the end. She knew how it sounded. I looked down. She was watching the movement of my hands, the way my forearm flexed under the light. When our eyes met, she didn't look away fast enough. "You used to fix things with your dad, didn't you?" she asked suddenly. The question hit me in the chest. "Yeah," I said, "before he left." She nodded, gaze softening. "I figured, you have that careful way. Like someone taught you patience the hard way." For a moment, there wasn't just attraction, there was something else. Recognition. The kind that stings because it feels too true. "What about you?" I asked quietly. She looked at the floor. "Divorced. Long time ago. I got good at pretending I don't miss it." Her honesty caught me off guard. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. The silence stretched, heavy but not uncomfortable. When I finished fixing the light, she reached up instinctively, fingers brushing mine as we both steadied the bulb. A spark popped inside the fixture, and she flinched, then laughed nervously, hand lingering against mine longer than needed. "Guess we did it wrong," she said. "Maybe," I replied, "or maybe it just needed a jolt." Her laughter faded into quiet. She stepped down from the stool, close enough that her breath touched my throat. I could see the pulse at her collarbone, quick and uncertain. "You shouldn't keep coming here," she whispered. "Do you want me to stop?" Her eyes lifted to mine, steady, no longer pretending. "That's not the point." We stood there, caught in a moment that didn't belong to either of us yet. The light above flickered once more, bright, then dim before settling steady. Neither of us moved, and even in that stillness, something between us had already crossed a line. Rain again. It always seemed to find us. I was there to drop off a borrowed ladder. That was my excuse this time. She opened the door with her hair damp and her sleeves pushed to her elbows, like she'd just been washing dishes. The house smelled of wet pavement and lemon soap. "You're soaked," she said, voice soft but sharp around the edges. "I didn't plan on staying long," I replied, though we both knew I never did. She hesitated before stepping aside. "You might as well dry off." I followed her into the living room, my shoes squeaking on the hardwood. The sound felt too loud in the quiet. She handed me a towel, and our fingers brushed, that same accidental on-purpose contact that left us both still for a second too long. "How's the light holding up?" I asked. "Still works," she said. "Though, sometimes it flickers at night." She wasn't talking about the bulb. We both smiled, small, like people pretending not to notice the same thing. She motioned for me to sit, and I did, on the edge of the couch. She stayed standing, one hand on the back of a chair, the other brushing a loose strand of hair from her cheek. "I shouldn't keep calling you," she said quietly. "People talk. Who's listening?" "You'd be surprised." Her phone buzzed on the counter. We both glanced at it. Her sister's name flashed across the screen. Elise froze. The rain beat harder against the windows. She didn't move to answer it, not right away. Then, after 3 rings, she picked it up, back turned to me. "Hey, yeah. He just dropped something off." A pause. "No, nothing like that." Her voice was calm, practiced. She laughed once, too brightly, then hung up and leaned against the counter, exhaling like she'd been holding her breath the whole call. I stood. "You don't have to lie." She turned, her eyes tired, conflicted. "It's not lying if it keeps things simple. Feels like you're making them harder." That landed somewhere between us. A truth we both felt but didn't want to touch. She walked closer. The sound of her bare feet on the floor seemed louder than the rain. I could see a faint tremor in her hand before she crossed her arms, like she needed something to hold on to. "You don't understand," she said. "You'll move on. You'll forget this." "I don't think I will." The air went still. I don't know which of us leaned in first. Her breath brushed my jaw, My hand almost lifted to her face but stopped halfway, fingers curling tight. She didn't step back, didn't move, just looked at me with that same mixture of want and warning. "Don't," she whispered. "I'm not doing anything. That's the problem." The phone buzzed again, louder this time. We both startled like we'd been caught. She stepped back. I exhaled. The space between us filled with everything we hadn't said. I grabbed the towel from the couch, draped it over the armrest, and started toward the door. She followed close behind. When I turned to leave, she caught my wrist, brief, firm, almost desperate. "Be careful," she said, eyes locked on mine. "I don't want to be the reason someone gets hurt." I nodded, but neither of us let go right away. Her fingers slipped away slowly, one by one, until the only thing left was the echo of her touch. The night it finally broke, nothing was planned. Her sister had invited a few people over, casual dinner, nothing special. I came to help set up, thinking maybe I'd keep my distance this time. Maybe I'd finally prove to myself that I could. But Elise opened the door in that blue dress I'd never seen before, the one that made it impossible to look at anything else. Her hair was pinned up, a few loose strands brushing her neck. She smelled like rain again, and citrus and something warm underneath. "You came," she said, surprised but not unhappy. "You asked," I replied. Her eyes lingered too long. "I didn't think you would." All through dinner, we circled each other like two people pretending the room was full enough to keep us safe. But every time I laughed at something her sister said, I could feel Elise's gaze flick toward me. When someone touched my arm in conversation, her jaw tightened. Small things, invisible to anyone else. After everyone left, I stayed to help clean. Her sister went upstairs early, thanking me over her shoulder. Then it was just the two of us again. Quiet, the clink of dishes, the low hum of the fridge. She handed me a plate to dry, our fingers brushing. I didn't move my hand away this time. "Elise," I said. "Don't," she whispered automatically, but her voice broke halfway through. I set the towel down, leaned against the counter. "You keep saying that, but you never mean it." Her shoulders tensed. "You don't know what you're doing. Then tell me." Silence, the kind that burns. Finally, she turned slow like it took effort. Her eyes were glassy, tired, full of something she'd tried too long to hide. "I'm old enough to know how this ends," she said. "You think it's something it's not. Then why do you look at me like that?" She inhaled sharply, like the question itself hurt. I stepped closer. She didn't move. "You don't get to," she started, then stopped when I reached up and brushed a loose strand of hair behind her ear. My hand lingered there, thumb grazing the edge of her jaw. Her breath caught. "I shouldn't," she said again. "I know." My voice was low, too close to her skin. I could feel her trembling barely, the way her body leaned forward just enough to erase the space between us. Her hand lifted to my chest, not to push me away, but to feel the steady thrum beneath. For a second, everything else, the age, the fear, the rules, fell quiet. "Tell me to stop," I said. She didn't. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then back up. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "I'm not trying to be fair." The words hung there, dangerous and real. Then a sound. Footsteps upstairs. Her sister's voice, faint, calling her name. Elise froze. My hand dropped, but we didn't move apart. Not yet. She looked up at me. Cheeks flushed, lips parted, eyes wide with everything she wouldn't say. "Go," she mouthed. I hesitated. Then she added, barely audible, "If you stay, I won't stop you." The footsteps came closer. We stood there, breathing the same air, hearts beating too fast. The world narrowed to the inch between us. And just before the door opened, she looked at me like she already knew this was the moment everything would change. The next day, everything felt wrong. She hadn't answered my messages, not even the harmless ones. The ones that just said, "Did you sleep?" or "You left the light on again." I told myself to let it go. But by evening, I was standing at her door again, that same stupid ladder in my hands like I needed an excuse to see her. Her sister answered this time. "Oh, hey," she said. "You're back? Elise didn't tell me." My stomach dropped a little. "She's home," I asked. "She should be. Upstairs, I think. You can go up if you want. She's probably hiding from another conference call." I hesitated, but I went. Her bedroom door was half open, light spilling out. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to me, phone in hand. I was about to knock when I heard it. My name said quietly. I know it's wrong," she whispered. "He's so much younger, but I can't seem to." She exhaled sharply. "No, I haven't told her. She'd never understand." The sound of my heartbeat filled my ears. She turned slightly, caught my reflection in the mirror, and went still. "Elise." Her phone slid from her hand onto the comforter. The call disconnected. For a long second, neither of us spoke. "You heard that," she said finally. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me. "You were talking about me." Her mouth parted like she wanted to deny it, but she didn't. She just nodded, one slow, helpless motion. "I didn't mean for you to." "Then what did you mean?" She stood, arms folded like armor, though her fingers trembled against her sleeves. "I was trying to make sense of it," she said. "Of you. Of what I've done. You didn't do anything. Don't lie. You know what this looks like." She moved past me toward the window, needing space, maybe air. Her shoulder brushed my arm. A small, electric contact that made everything worse. "I didn't tell her," she said, staring out into the dark. "I couldn't. My sister, she's protective. You're supposed to be hers to worry about, not mine." That stung in a place I didn't expect. "Is that all this is to you?" I asked. "A problem to manage?" Her breath hitched. "Don't make it sound small." I took a step closer. "Then what is it?" She turned, and there it was, the truth she'd been burying under logic and shame and all those practiced smiles. "It's the first time I've felt alive in years," she said, voice breaking. "And that terrifies me." Her words hit hard, not because they were beautiful, but because they were true. We stood inches apart. Her hands clenched, unclenched. Mine twitched like they couldn't decide what to do. Reach for her, or pull back before it was too late. "Elise," I said quietly. "Don't," she whispered, but her body leaned forward anyway. I could feel the warmth of her breath, the slight tremor of her lips about to form another excuse. Then the sound of a door closing downstairs. Her sister's voice again, calling up the hall. Elisa's eyes widened. She pressed a hand to my chest, pushing me back just enough to breathe. "Go," she said, but softer this time, almost pleading. I didn't move. She swallowed hard. "If you stay tonight, everything changes." Her fingers slipped from me, slow, reluctant. I looked at her, the fear, the want, the truth still hanging between us. "Maybe that's what's supposed to happen," I said. And as footsteps started up the stairs, she didn't answer, just closed her eyes, like she already knew we were past the point of pretending otherwise. It was late, later than either of us had planned, when I came back. The rain had stopped, but the world still smelled wet and restless. Her window glowed faintly against the night. I didn't have a reason this time, not even a broken light or borrowed tool. Just the sound of my heartbeat, heavy in my throat, pulling me there. When she opened the door, she didn't look surprised, just tired. Tired of pretending. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I know." The words sat between us, honest and small. She stepped aside and I entered. The house was quiet, her sister's car gone from the driveway. It was just us, and that silence that had started to feel too familiar. Elise moved to the kitchen counter, running her thumb along the edge of her mug. "You didn't listen," she said softly. "Neither did you," I replied. That made her turn. Her eyes met mine, steady but shining. "You think this is some kind of story you get to finish your way?" "No," I said. "I think it's the first thing that's ever felt real." Her breath caught. She shook her head, half smiling, half breaking. "You're too young to know what real means." "Then show me." The words came out rough, unplanned. She blinked, and something in her face cracked. Not weakness, but surrender. The kind that comes after too long holding everything in. She walked toward me, slow, careful. Her hand brushed the sleeve of my jacket, then trailed down until her fingers rested near mine. "You don't know what this costs," she whispered. "I don't care." I stepped closer. I could feel her warmth, her breath, my pulse in my fingertips. Every second felt stretched to breaking. "You'll regret it," she said. "Maybe," I said, "but not tonight." The space between us disappeared. She exhaled, trembling slightly, then pressed her forehead to mine. Not a kiss, not yet. Just contact. Fragile. Charged. I felt her heart through that small distance. She lifted her hand, brushed her fingers against my cheek, her voice barely there. "I can't keep pretending I don't want this." "Then don't." For a heartbeat we hovered there. Every reason, every risk, everything waiting on a single breath. But she pulled back, just enough for her eyes to meet mine again. "You'll hate me for this one day," she said. I couldn't. Her hand lingered against my face, then slid away. She turned, moving toward the door like it was the only way to stay sane. I caught her wrist, not to stop her, just to make her look at me. "Tell me what you want," I said. She stared at me for a long moment, her lips trembling with 100 unsaid things. Finally, quietly, "I want to stop pretending I don't." The truth landed between us like a spark catching. She stepped forward again, no hesitation this time, her hands finding mine, her body close enough that every breath we shared felt like a promise and a warning. No words, no more waiting, just two people standing exactly where they weren't supposed to, and choosing not to move. In that moment, there was nothing left to hide. They both understood what it meant, and neither one looked away. Morning light slipped through her curtains, soft and forgiving, turning everything gold. The rain had stopped hours ago, but the air still felt heavy, the kind of quiet that follows a decision you can't take back. Elise sat by the window, knees drawn up, coffee cooling beside her. I stood at the counter, unsure what to do with my hands. Everything looked the same, her kitchen, the half-fixed cabinet, the chipped mug, and yet nothing felt untouched anymore. She looked up when I finally spoke. "I should go soon," I said. Her smile was small, careful. "You always say that." "I mean it this time." "Do you?" I exhaled, rubbing the back of my neck. "I don't know how to make this work. You're you. I'm still figuring out who I am." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "That's the most honest thing you've said." Silence again, not sharp this time, but gentle. The kind that lets two people breathe in the same space without needing to fill it. "I used to think love was supposed to make sense," she said quietly. "Same age, same stage, same everything. But then you walked in with that toolbox and looked at me like I wasn't invisible anymore." Her voice faltered on the last word. I crossed the room and sat beside her, close enough that our shoulders touched. "You were never invisible." She laughed softly, shaking her head. "You have no idea what that means to a woman my age." I did, though, at least a little. The way she avoided mirrors sometimes, the way she looked away when people called her beautiful, like she didn't trust the word anymore. "Then I'll remind you," I said. She turned toward me, eyes wet but steady. "You'll leave someday. You're supposed to. And I'll be here, still fixing light bulbs and pretending not to check my phone." "Maybe," I said. "But right now I'm here." That was all either of us could promise. She reached for my hand, fingers slow, deliberate. Our palms fit together easily, not perfect but real. I could feel her pulse, fast at first, then calming as she leaned her head against my shoulder. "I don't want this to be a mistake," she whispered. "It's not," I said. "It's just us." We sat like that for a long time, no rushing, no pretending the world outside didn't exist. Just breathing, just letting the moment be enough. Eventually, she looked up at me, eyes searching, soft. "What now?" I smiled, brushing my thumb across her knuckles. "Now we stop fixing things that aren't broken." She laughed, a quiet, real sound, and leaned in, pressing her forehead to mine. Not a kiss, not this time. Just a touch that said everything words couldn't. Outside, the world went on. Cars, sunlight, life returning to normal. But inside that small kitchen, it felt like we'd finally stopped running from whatever this was. Not perfect, not simple, but theirs. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?